If you don't do that, you're going to be living your life by accident. You're going to be essentially designing your lifestyle around what a tech founder and tech investors want you to do, which is to turn you into a product for their own enrichment. That is not going to benefit you and your family. Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. All right, now I've been thinking about a topic that I wanted to kind of work through with you guys today. I had an epiphany recently where I was just imagining what is the biggest distinction between people in the future, given where things are going. There's such a crazy divide that's going to open up between people that were raised by parents who had an intentional vision and strategy for how to both protect and help their kids flourish, and those who were raised by accident. And this is going to be such an enormous divide. I'm calling it the intentional age. So I wrote a little Substack on this. The subtitle is "The Biggest Distinction Between People in the Next Generation Will Be Between Those Who Live by Accident and Those Who Live by Intention." Now, you guys will see as I get deeper into this that because the technologies that are coming to kind of rewire our brains, because we expose these to children, this distinction is primarily going to be one around how we father and mother our kids. Like, what kinds of families are these kids growing up in? So I want to kind of walk through. There's sort of the three parts of this essay. It's fairly short, but the first is just to try to really help you guys understand how deep this problem is and how unusual it is and how unfortunate it is. But there is a very clear solution. I love getting into really making sure that there is hope, and there is a lot of hope. But I do think this is going to cause a lot of damage and is causing a lot of damage. So I start by just saying wise cultures set up a world where to go with the flow leads the average person toward a functional and fulfilling life. A wise culture is going to do that. Naturally, just sort of like stair steps you towards a functional, fulfilling life. Okay, this is the stage where you do this. This is the stage where you do that. And then as you just kind of follow the typical cultural playbook, you're like, wow, my life is flourishing. I'm married. I'm having kids. We have a flourishing life. We're making enough money. We're living in a house, whatever those things are. Our culture, however, does the opposite. We have set up a world where going with the flow leads to destruction, and the problem is getting worse. A child who goes with the flow will have his attention destroyed by screens. An adolescent who goes with the flow will have her identity manufactured by social media. A teenager who goes with the flow will have his sex drive warped by pornography. A student who goes with the flow will have her future stolen by college debt. A young adult who goes with the flow will have his motivation eroded by video games. A professional woman who goes with the flow may miss her window for motherhood before she has a baby. A young married couple who goes with the flow will find themselves drifting further and further apart. Oof. And I kind of had to stop there. I mean, there are a lot more realities about how we are setting people up to fail kind of occurred to me, but I was like, all right, that's good enough. Like, I think we can all agree that this is a huge problem and this is getting worse, and trying to understand how deep this goes. This universal drift toward disintegration is not accidental. It is caused by technology specifically designed to exploit our basest instincts while enriching a small cabal of tech founders and investors. Technology has been weaponized, turning the pursuit of convenience into a path toward dependence and cultural decay. Okay. And this is what makes this problem really unique. Probably the greatest lie you could believe that will cause you to fall into this problem is to think that technology is some kind of neutral tool. It is not. It has a desire, and its desire is ultimately to turn you and your children into a product for their own enrichment. That is what they're designed to do. They're going to offer you convenience, but they're going to exploit you as they go about doing that. So the problem is clear. What remains is to explore the solutions. Getting into the second part of the essay. We need three things to survive this age. Number one, a detailed vision. Number two, a strong will. And number three, a thick community. If you lack any of these, you will be consumed by the vortex of this techno dystopia. It all starts with a clear, detailed vision of the good life. Without it, you are captured by technologies designed to create addiction. You must become ruthlessly discerning about technology, deciding in advance whether an innovation serves or detracts from your vision of human flourishing. No one will help you do this. Its benefits will be loudly and beautifully presented. Its downsides will be hidden. One of the things that's really important to understand about the way that technology is being marketed to us is there are really amazing benefits to every technology that comes out. And those benefits, companies will spend billions of dollars making us aware of those benefits. And they will be also at the same time spending money to hide any of the downsides of the liabilities. And this is why one of my favorite quotes of all time for our age is Thomas Sowell's very simple quote: there are no solutions, only trade-offs. Every single time you're being sold something, it does this, it does that, it's going to make your life easier. Whatever those awesome solutions are, those might be proven to you like, wow, those solutions are real. And what you are tempted to think at that moment is, wow, we figured it out. We finally found a solution where there are no downsides. But you have to understand that there's this really unfortunate asymmetrical relationship you're having with these new technologies and the companies that are promoting them. That asymmetrical relationship is that they are going to spend money trumpeting those conveniences and those benefits while also spending money to hide those liabilities. So we have to get to a place where we are discerning and looking through the lens that Thomas Sowell is giving us, which is find the trade-off. What is the trade-off? It doesn't mean that there isn't, it's not always worth the trade-off, but there is a trade-off. When we decided to design our entire lives around the automobile, it was incredibly convenient. It also, at the same time, completely re-engineered and destroyed the way that communities for thousands of years have been created around small villages, where everyone lived very close together, compact, and then every village was a day's walk from the next village. That created a sense of place. Now the automobile has created this incredible amounts of sprawl. That's just one downside. Of course, you can go on and on about all the other downsides, but no one's going to be spending billions of dollars to articulate the downsides of new technologies. And this is what I mean by discernment. So this is one of the things you need. You have to have a detailed vision of the good life, because if you don't understand that, if you're not saying, hey, I want to raise my family in a village-like atmosphere. For example, our family made a decision to look for a community that was designed before the automobile was ubiquitous everywhere. And so we found Fort Thomas, Kentucky, one of the neighborhoods in the Cincinnati area that was designed around the automobile. Our house was built in the 1890s. And the design of this community is designed at a human scale. It's a walking town. You have different businesses that are interspersed with people and where they're living. And it's very natural in the way it was designed. The main road that is outside of our house, this was actually where this streetcar used to come, and called the Green Line. And it would come right up to, just a block from our house. And this was the way this entire community was designed around that streetcar and what it brought to the community. And so it wasn't designed around assuming everyone had a car. And communities that were designed around the automobile are very different. Now, this is not about that. I'm just describing to you guys the fact that one of the detailed visions that we have as a family is I want to raise my kids in a walking community. I have seen incredible benefits from this. Other people, their vision is to raise their kids in a more rural area. Maybe others are a more urban area. But it's really important to have a detailed vision, because that would allow you to say, look, I don't really appreciate this technology because it actually violates our family's vision. But if you don't do that, you're going to be living your life by accident. You're going to be essentially designing your lifestyle around what a tech founder and tech investors want you to do, which is to turn you into a product for their own enrichment. That is not going to be something that's going to benefit you and your family. But how do you discern the difference? You've got to somehow begin to articulate a high resolution vision of the good life. Okay. So a detailed vision. Hey, it's Jeremy. I grew up in the Pacific Northwest, where having a child was treated like a lifestyle choice, kind of like getting a dog. Most families I knew didn't talk about vision or legacy or building something together, so when my theology around family changed, it hit me hard. I realized I wasn't just raising kids, I was forming a multi-generational team, but I had no idea how to do that. I needed tools, rhythms, frameworks, and I needed examples. That's why we created the Family Teams Accelerator. It's the kind of path I wish I had back then. Each month, we walk through one key area of family life, like Sabbath, discipline, or family mission, and give you a simple video, a playbook, and real-life tools to build it into your home. If you're trying to lead your family with intention, but feel like you're making it up as you go, you're not alone, and you don't have to figure it out from scratch. Join us at familyteams.com/accelerator. You'll also need an extremely strong will. Every day you will receive compelling invitations to go with the flow alongside your fellow humans, to choose comfort over commitment. I struggle with this one a lot. I enjoy the change, my personality is one in which I really am curious about all of these technological innovations. I want to play with them. I want to understand them. I'm fascinated by where they could take us. And so it's difficult for me to resist the decision to say, oh, let's all get an iPhone. Let's all jump on social media. Let's just see what happens. Let's just play out the experiment. And I think that I'm not saying all that's bad, but I am saying that when you have determined that a particular technology, a particular, advancement, something that's being sold to us as progress is not in your best interest, is not going to serve your vision of the good life, then it's important to resist that. And that's going to be very difficult to do. How do you say no? Man, it takes a steel spine to say no to a lot of these technologies, because you also have to do a lot of creative thinking. Like, well, okay, if people's lifestyles are going to start bending around these technologies, or maybe even my work is going to be threatened if I don't adopt this new technology. Wow, that's going to take a lot of creative thinking, a lot of I think discussions with people around you, but it really requires a strong will. But yeah, those discussions are really important. And that's really the third part of this solution. Finally, you cannot do this alone. You need a community where your countercultural decisions are normal, staving off the constant fatigue of isolation. We're not really meant to live in total isolation. I know that sometimes the solution to this people imagine is that me and my family are going to go buy some land in a rural area and just cut ourselves off from the rest of the world. But we were designed to live in the body life, right? The church is something that a community we're designed to live around. We're designed to live around other families. We want to be integrated with our extended family members as well. We want to be presenting a lifestyle that actually makes sense for our future children and grandchildren to be part of, our future in-laws who were not raised in a very unique way. And so these are all really difficult tensions, but we have to find a way to form communities like this. Now, this is the third part of the essay where I kind of like try to drill into a very unique aspect of this problem. But here is the critical detail. Since these technologies prey on children, the structure that stands against them must somehow have authority to intercede between the culture and the child. By the time a person is an adult and can intellectually choose against these forces, it is too late. They will be fully assimilated. Therefore, the only sustainable defense in it is a community with a detailed vision, led by a will strong enough to withstand the cultural assault, and whose members join in infancy. Does any such role exist? So it's important to frame the challenge properly, because if your solution is, well, I think what we need to do is educate people better about the problems with social media. We need to educate people better about how these technologies are turning them into products or causing addictions, the downsides. Okay, yes, absolutely, those things need to be done. But the problem is, you guys, that the primary place where we become addicted to these technologies is in our childhood. And if this is all about freedom and the decision to say, well, you decide and I'll decide differently, then it can't be an individual decision. It's got to be a household decision. And that's where we kind of take this conversation into that next layer. Does such a social role exist that is designed to protect children? Somebody who has a detailed vision of the good life, somebody who has a strong will, and somebody who can lead the family and make alliances in a larger community. Yes, that role does exist. And it is the role of the patriarch, the visionary leader of a multi-generational family. That is what a patriarch is. A patriarch it literally means ruling father, but what that meant historically and what it needs to continue to mean is a visionary leader of a multi-generational family, a role that existed in nearly every wise and stable culture of antiquity. This brings us to a strange and thorny problem. If you ask the cultural dispensers of wisdom, like people like the humanities professors who train the next generation, to name the one word for what is wrong with modern culture, the word you are most likely to hear is patriarchy. Such a weird reality that we have diagnosed that as the problem. Even though we live in perhaps the least patriarchal time in Western history, we have predetermined that the patriarch is the cause of the problem. This ensures our culture will never find the solution. The only solution to the problem we face has been preemptively labeled as its cause. Imagine what a masterstroke that was of the enemy. Wow. To say that the only thing that really can stand between children and these sort of technological advances that are likely to enslave them, that God has designed within the structure of the world, within the human race, a role that is designed to stand between those who are vulnerable and those who are going to naturally desire to exploit them. We have said they're the actual problem, and thereby made it impossible for our culture to actually discover the potential solution to this problem. As a result, there is nothing strong enough to stand between future generations and the technologies designed to enslave them. Those who could have pointed to the solution have instead spent their precious influence on condemning it. Wouldn't it be amazing? Imagine being in a class where this is unveiled to you. You're in a humanities class, a social studies class. They're like, you guys have to understand this. There's incredibly beautiful design. This thing called the family. And it has a mother and a father. And if you want to take this to the whole nother level, think about a multi-generational family, a patriarch and a matriarch with their adult children and their children, and how they can form a community, a tight, thick community. Like we've done everything we can to destroy this entity. Anytime it's brought up in those kinds of contexts, virtually always it's attacked as some kind of oppressive institution designed to crush the individual. So this has led and left children incredibly vulnerable to this problem, which is that they're going to live an accidental life instead of an intentional life. And that's going to cause them to be at the mercy of these different technologies. So this failure will give rise to a sharp divide in the future between those few families led by loving, visionary, and protective patriarchs and the vast majority of individuals trained from childhood to serve the machine. You have only this choice: to live on accident as a slave or to be led with intention by a patriarch. As for me and my house, we're going to choose the patriarchs. And that's, I think, what we need to re-embrace. We need to understand that we face an incredibly difficult dilemma. And fortunately, in the pages of Scripture, we do have the solution. Throughout human history, God has provided a person to stand between children and those who would like to exploit them. This is why in the Bible, one of the greatest tragedies is to become fatherless or a widow, because the fatherless and the widow lacks the patriarch. And so what was constantly said throughout the Scriptures is plead the cause of the fatherless and the widow. Who's going to stand between them and the people that are trying to exploit them, to take what precious resources their multi-generational family has? If suddenly a father dies, the leading father of that family, then that family is uniquely vulnerable until those sons become old enough to be able to defend the family. And in that case, God expected other patriarchs to stand in the place and plead the cause of the fatherless and the widow. But today we just, instead of talking even in those words, we are attempting to engineer a society that's designed to be fatherless and to leave us vulnerable at a time when the exploiters are all around us, where they are constantly trying to create new portals into our lives and into the lives of our children. So think about the importance of living intentionally. How am I and how is our family going to develop a detailed vision? How are we going to have a will strong enough to say no to these supposed solutions and to look at the trade-offs and have the wisdom to discern which is which? And how are we going to form a kind of community like the multi-generational family, led by a loving, visionary, protective father who is taking personal responsibility to stand between his children and his family and these forces that would desire to exploit them? So that is what it means to enter into the intentional age.
Thank you for listening to Jeremy Pryor's podcast. Make sure you hit that follow button so you don't miss out on any future content. Follow Jeremy on Twitter and Instagram, as well as his Substack blog, all linked in the description. See you next time.